In 1947, in the harsh desert of Judea, a young Bedouin shepherd was searching for a missing goat. He had no idea that his search would lead to one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of the 20th century. Among the cliffs overlooking the Dead Sea were caves that had hidden a secret for almost 2,000 years. Inside one of these caves, ancient clay jars were discovered, and inside those jars was something far more valuable. Carefully wrapped in ancient material were fragile scrolls and manuscripts. At first, nobody could imagine their true importance. These were fragments of writings created nearly 2,000 years ago, and their discovery would transform the study of ancient biblical texts. The location was Qumran, on the northwestern shore of the Dead Sea. Over the following years, archaeologists explored the surrounding caves. They also uncovered the remains of an ancient settlement. But who were the people who once lived there? Archaeologists carefully examined the discoveries, trying to reconstruct a story that had disappeared into the darkness of history. Inside the caves were hundreds of clay vessels and thousands of manuscript fragments. Many of them had been damaged by time. Yet even a tiny fragment could reveal an entire sentence. The texts were written mainly in ancient Hebrew and Aramaic, with some Greek as well. Among the discoveries were copies of biblical books. For scholars, this was extraordinary. One of the most important discoveries was the Great Isaiah Scroll. It contains almost the entire book of Isaiah and is one of the oldest surviving biblical manuscripts of its kind. But the people who created these texts left behind more than religious writings. They left a window into an entire world of beliefs, rules, traditions, and ideas. The manuscripts take us back to the age of the Second Temple, a period of enormous political and religious change in ancient Judea. And then came one of the greatest mysteries. Who placed these manuscripts inside the caves? For decades, many scholars connected the scrolls with the community that lived at Qumran, often identifying them with the Essenes. But the exact relationship between the settlement and all of the scrolls remains debated. To understand the manuscripts, experts had to examine every single letter. Sometimes, this meant hours of painstaking work under magnifying glasses. The fragile fragments also had to be preserved with extraordinary care. A single mistake could cause permanent damage. Every line could reveal new information, and every fragment could help scholars reconstruct a text that had been lost for centuries. Today, some of the most important scrolls are preserved and displayed at the Shrine of the Book in Jerusalem. But the discovery was not made up of complete scrolls alone. Thousands of tiny fragments had to be studied, identified, and pieced together. And all of them came from a landscape where the desert meets the Dead Sea. One of the most extreme and mysterious environments of the ancient world. Inside the dark caves, the ancient manuscripts remained hidden and protected by the dry climate for centuries. Until one day, someone found them. The ruins of Qumran provide another piece of the puzzle, but they do not answer every question. Who wrote the manuscripts? Why were they hidden inside the caves? And why were so many different texts gathered in the same region? Some fragments are so fragile that light passing through the ancient material can reveal details invisible to the naked eye. Each surviving piece is a tiny archaeological treasure. The scrolls contain not only biblical texts, they also include community rules, prayers, interpretations, and other religious writings. That is what makes the Dead Sea Scrolls so important. They allow us to look directly into the intellectual and spiritual world of people who lived nearly 2,000 years ago. And perhaps the most fascinating part is that the mystery is still not completely solved. The caves remained silent for centuries, but the scrolls still speak. Today, thousands of years after these words were written on fragile pieces of parchment, they are still being read. A discovery that began with a shepherd in the desert became a window into the ancient world. The Dead Sea Scrolls are not simply ancient manuscripts. They are a message from a world that disappeared, but never truly fell silent.